Yo guys, former team by the brand new video. It's a new video. I'm back. This is video gonna go up very soon. I'm gonna try to explain, but this is a top 5 players who I think will break out in 2019, and I'm gonna go over the reason why I think they're gonna blow out and my predictions for them, as you guys can see in the picture here. My number 5 player, my top 5, my list is Will Fuller. For the Texans, he's had his fair share of injuries. You could see here he's been very consistent. His rookie year was off to a really good start. Got injured. He came back. Missed a couple of games of 2017. Had a really good high-scoring touchdown season. He was just on track to do some great things. And there was so many different levels that he can extend to. And he can definitely proceed, and if he stays healthy with Deshaun Watson having no offensive line, no good running game, a struggling defense, they lost Tyrann Mathieu, a banged-up Mercilus, a banged-up Watt, and not a lot of good other things outside of that, they got to make big plays. If Deshaun Watson can stay healthy, DeAndre Hopkins can still do good, and Will Fuller can stay healthy, and Keke Coutee, that's a good team. And my predictions here, I remember about 65 catches, around 800 yards, 250 yards, with around 9 touchdowns. I think he'll be one of those players where people will talk about that he'll be like a snub. I think he'll be one of those guys people are going to say he should be. I just want to touch on him, but he was game fits really well, and I may touch on every player now and then when I saw their highlights. He fits the modern game with Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. No running game. I mentioned earlier, they have no running game. They have no offensive line, which means Deshaun Watson's going to have to scramble. Will Fuller's going to have to do the deep ball, which he definitely did well in college. So he has potential to be a top 10 player. He was when he came to the league. He got hurt. So I really hope, I heard in school I like.
Don't say you're on the road to the other side. My love. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose.
And at number 4, I have Minkah Fitzpatrick. The safety / corner / linebacker for Miami was the first round pick in 2018. And there's not too much to say, but I think he's a breakout. And he's one of those guys where Miami and when Adam Gase was there, he's going to say he's going to use him. Brian Flores is a defensive guy, which means he's going to use him in a lot of different places. They already came out and said they're going to use him as linebacker, safety, and corner. And if he's in the box, Miami likes to run an 8-man defense in the box. And Brian Flores in New England love doing that too. So he's going to have a lot of tackles playing in the box as a safety, corner, and linebacker if he makes pass rusher. He didn't make turnovers last year in his career. My prediction for this season, over 100 tackles, but over 50, almost half of them are going to be assists, 2 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions. I think he will be a Pro Bowler. And at this time next year, when they're doing the top 100 players, I think he will be ranked top 50. So I think he will be a top 50 player. And last year, he struggled making turnovers and forcing, forcing turnovers. And that's what he was known for in Alabama. Those were all of his highlights taken away. You guys will see in a little bit. And he only had 2 interceptions. He had no forced fumbles. That's what he's known for. But I think with him being in the box, there's going to be a lot of other guys trying to make themselves you know, a name like Jerome Baker, a couple guys on the defensive line. Speaking of defensive line, the guy that just lost his arm this morning when I'm doing the commentary for this. So it's sad to see. But when you have a guy like this, who's a small frame, who can play the linebacker position,
picked off by Fitzpatrick. Now a race, and Fitzpatrick will win it with a touchdown. A pick six.
And I like to give a shout out to my niggas with the game plan. And shout outs on my niggas with escape plans. 20 bands, rain dance. We can keep the rain checking, we can make plans. Pop is loaded, rock and loaded, let's got some dollars. Time to
and the running back Penniman. Pressure in the A-gap. Patterson is swarmed and brought down by the All-American Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Appleby with time. Intercepted again. This is Minkah Fitzpatrick at the 20. Fitzpatrick, he will score!
And at number 3, we have Dalvin Cook. This man was amazing in his first couple games as a rookie. I remember using him on my fantasy team. I drafted him. I watched a lot of football of Dalvin Cook in college. And he was really good. He went in the second round. I drafted him, I think, the last round of my fantasy team. He got me off to a really good start. And he had that knee injury. And he had players in front of him. Like you see, you know, he had the first 4 games, he had over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in his career. Like, well, that's not no good. Well, from the second round and how many running backs Minnesota had on their roster and the injuries Minnesota was going on at the time, it's pretty impressive if you think about it. And this past season, 2018, there was other running backs on the roster. There was other guys playing with Kirk Cousins trying to figure out that offense, which I have a video coming out in a couple of days on when you have guys like Kyle Rudolph, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs need the ball and other running backs in front of you. As a young guy coming off an injury, you're not going to get the ball. But the small amount of snaps he did take out throughout the year, he did get 133 carries. And I think he's one of those guys, he's going to be a two-way superstar, kind of like a Tevin Coleman, Devonta Freeman guy. And my prediction for this year, I say he's going to have around, you know, over 1,000 rushing yards, about 400 to 500 receiving yards, and about 15 total touchdowns. I do not think he'll be a Pro Bowl snub. I think he'll be very mediocre. I think he'll be one of those players to have a lot of turnovers, but they're going to force feed him to try to get him going because they know how good he is and they want to get him back. But so, yeah, and I think he will be a top 100 ranked player. I said this time next year when they're doing these things, I think he will be a top 100 ranked. So, yeah.
2017 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Dalvin Cook, running back, Florida State.
For the Vikings. See that knee?
And he reached for it right away.
Yeah. That and it's, you know, that's where you hold your collective breath.
As far as the status of Dalvin Cook, he does have a torn ACL, and we'll move forward for there. So.
First play, they'll swing it to Dalvin Cook, looking for a block. And a good one on first down is Cook. Play fake to Cook. Time, bust back to Cook. Makes a cut. Cook to the edge, and he's got a first down. Already heavy to Dalvin Cook. Billy said this was the only place I was going to go. And here he is, running this offense right ahead.
And at number 2, you guys may expect him to be a little bit higher, like number 1, but at this point you can probably, I could have either put Sterling Shepard at number 1 or 2 and the other person at 2, but I chose to put him at number 2. No Odell, you know, Golden Tate to the right of him. If you look at his stats here, he's had over 100 targets twice, his rookie and junior season. I know his sophomore season he did suffer that injury with Odell, but he's had some great seasons. You know, he's not a good red zone threat. And with Eli Manning, you know, have to play for his job every week, I think he's going to be one of those guys. He's going to get a lot of slant rights, a lot of cross routes. So he's probably going to catch a lot of slants, like I said, a lot of crosses, a lot of deep balls. but he will not be used in the red zone, which I can see him having a lot of touchdowns or barely any touchdowns like this past year or in 2017. So he's either going to have a really high amount of touchdowns or really low. I think it will definitely have over 1,000 yards, and that'll get to my prediction. Here it is. Over 100 targets, almost 100 catches, over 1,700 yards. I think it'll be 1,700 to 1,800 yards, which is incredible. And I think with Golden Tate, I don't think he's very good. He was very good in Seattle. I do not think he deserved that contract, but they needed a replacement. Sterling Shepard is a very good guy. They have two of their highest paid players on the receiving, Sterling Shepard and then Golden Tate. But I don't know. But honestly, I think he will be a Pro Bowler, and I think he will be a top 20 ranked player. So all comes down to it. I think he's going to be a phenomenal player this year. And me being a Cowboys fan, I hate to say it, but Sterling Shepard, I think, you don't hear this from too many people, but I think later down the road, he will be better than Odell ever was for New York. People like Giants fans or NFL fans are probably going to remember Sterling Shepard or New York Odell, because the whole Odell story. That's another video.
But no hustle, man, I've been through it all, yeah. I thank the Lord on the daily. I thank the Lord on the daily. First quarter and I'm going off. Balling like Tracy McGrady. Tell him to get out my face. Tell him to get out my way. I leave the heat like I'm Wade. I'm in the studio every day. I'm working hard, they throwing shade, yeah. I'm on a mission like Tom Cruise.
And at number 1, most of you guys that follow football probably predict this. It's Josh Allen. I think he is the best quarterback out of the 5 quarterbacks selected in the first round of 2018. I think he has the most potential, but he's on the worst team. And yes, I think Josh Rosen has more talent on the Dolphins, or potential, than he does. You know, not a very good receiving game. They added Cole Beasley, who, you know, I really was hoping that Cole Beasley had a really good career in Buffalo. But after he came out and said all that stuff about Dallas in the locker room, I kind of lost respect for him. Because I think Dallas treated him very well, and he was undrafted. So, yeah, I think he is better than Baker. A lot of people are going to hate me, but Baker had help. So, he only had 10 touchdowns. He had 2,000 yards. He didn't start all the games. He had those injuries. But my predictions for his breakout year, he's going to have a right around 60 completion percentage. He's going to have about an 80 QBR. I say 75 to 85, so I put it right in between, which for a sophomore QB is really good. I say he's going to have over 3,000 yards, I say 15 to 20 passing touchdowns, and I say at least 10 interceptions. He's going to have over 400 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. I just think that's the player he is. And I think, you know, he's going to play a lot conservative. You know, Sean McDermott's going to have an offense set up for him to where he's not going to throw the deep ball. He can't throw the deep ball.
And he's got his receiver.
He wants to get Josh
the tumbling reception downfield. Logan Thomas.
Make a play on the field. 1 first down. Being pass, if it didn't work, it'll be a long, third down play. And it feels like it's just about every team. But it's a majority defending goal. I think if on a 4-down scenario, you may see Josh Allen take the ball once, maybe twice. And I think with the running game, you know, depending on the success, and I say that's a 4-down drive. And, you know, every time with the 4th down. But, yeah. These videos do take a long time to make, edit, so I really appreciate it if you guys
to the right side, he has DeMarco, and DeMarco makes the catch. And he gets up and gets inside the 25-yard line. Out of the gun. Pressure's coming. He steps up, and he'll go.